Welcome back to Lost Legacies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
All right, so for the first time in a long time, we're ahead of schedule with Lost Legacies. We're a few episodes ahead from when we're dropping. So when this episode goes live, it will be March 20th, which will be my birthday.
Hey!
So happy birthday, me.
Happy birthday, Matt.
Oh, man, I feel
How do you
old.
feel?
Old. Physically, I feel tired.
Every day.
Mentally and emotionally, tired. No, well, actually, right now, this week, I'm feeling pretty good. I feel young again. Right? Is that the line from Star Trek? How do you feel?
I feel young.
Man,
Great movie.
Kirk in the movies is such an underrated character.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone writes him off because of Kirk in the series or just because it's William Shatner in general. But I really, really enjoyed James T. Kirk in the movies because you never really get your hero on film as he's aging. You know, there's all these movies now. They're bringing like the older guys in who can still kick ass and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but like Kirk's over there, like his reading glasses break, you know, one of the movies, and now he's like, well, I can't read my book, you know, things like that, and you know, like I don't know, and he loses his son in the movies. Spoiler alert. I don't know. I think it was a great. I'll just double down. I think Kirk is very underrated in the films.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Star Trek, 3 episodes into Picard, oh my god, my mind is exploding. Like it's so good. The ship battles are it's just nuts. Very Star Trek.
Wait, there are ship battles?
Yeah, it's Star Trek, man.
Well, don't give me that.
Don't give me that, because there wasn't really any ship battles in the first 2 seasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and like it's like old school Wrath of Khan or like insurrection type battles where it's like, yeah, these are ship battles in space. Let's see what we're capable of.
Yeah. Okay. Dang it. Now I'm gonna get on it.
Dude, definitely, because like, and this season's definitely a mystery. So like every episode, me and Dad are talking about like, okay, what's going on? Who's the villain? They drop some stuff in this latest episode that like is really intriguing because it involves like a race we haven't seen in Star Trek in a very long time. So like, so we're just trying to put the pieces together, and it's wild.
Nice.
Love it. And the music is the best. It feels Star Trek again. So what else? Last week we talked about Wakanda Forever. Watch anything else recently?
Yeah. So this past weekend, watched a couple of movies actually. I was just having a time of it. But there's one movie that I want to like zero in on for a second. And it's called, hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Salome.
Okay.
It came out 2021. Essentially, it's these 3 mercenaries are hired to extract this Mexican drug lord and take him out of the country. Their plane gets sabotaged, and they have to land in this mystical region of Salome, Senegal. For like the first half of the movie's it's only like 84 minutes long. But like most of the first 2 acts are like they're like a Western. You know, like the guys, like they're going in, they're extracting like the cinematography and all, like it's beautiful. It feels like a Western. And then it sort of shifts into like a mystery intrigue because they're in this little like preserve. It's a very small place, and all 3 of the mercenaries have to like take on disguises and like, hey, like we're not who we say we are because, like we just got to do this thing. We need to get fuel and supplies for the plane. But then you slowly start to see that, like, wait a second, they're here for a reason.
Hmm.
One of them isn't saying exactly why. And then it pivots hard right into like a supernatural thriller. And you're like, wait a second, what? What the heck just happened? It's such a strange blend, but it's so freaking cool. Um I have I have some issues with it. The end is kind of a bummer. I get it. Maybe if I rewatch it, like I'll appreciate it more. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Like, there's just something about this movie that was just like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I want to say it's also the director's like first movie, like their first big movie. They've done like some shorts, but like this is like their first one with very, very limited budget, but
Hmm.
they really make it work. Uh, and yeah, it's just like it's so cool. It's such a fun movie.
That's cool.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah,
I've never heard of this before. That's cool.
it's one of those things. Only heard about it because like I think it's distributed by Shudder,
Oh, okay. Hmm.
and Shudder, like they're just like almost exclusively horror.
Right.
So that's
So
the
you're
only.
watching and you're like, well, wait a second.
Yeah, exactly.
When's the
That was
shoe
like
gonna
the
drop?
Yeah, that was the only thing that like really clued me in that like, oh, like there's got to be something else going on here, is that I'm watching it on like this horror,
Hmm.
streaming service. Which I mean they also do like hard like crime thrillers. They have a lot of like Japanese crime thrillers
Hmm.
on their platform. But yeah, like
I mean, I
n-
guess anything could be horror if you're the victim.
yeah, I think that's kind of the point.
Hmm.
Uh So yeah, but yeah, it's on Shutter. I also have AMC Plus that has the Shutter Hub on
Hmm.
it. So if you have AMC Plus, you'll have access to Salome. Go watch it. It's fantastic. Uh, yeah, man. It's
Nice.
just yeah, it was really fun.
Haven't really watched anything this past week. I've just been watching Dark.
Hmm.
Still great. So good. I got 2 episodes left of season 2. Easily, I pretty much called it with this last episode. Like, this is easily in my top 10 shows of all time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Before we get in though, because listeners, I know some of you might not listen to the full episode, so we'll bring it up
What?
now until instead of the end. But some scheduling next week. There will be a Lost Legacies episode, but we won't be talking about Lost because next week we will be celebrating the Lost Legacies 100th friggin' episode.
Wah, wah, wah.
One freaking hundred, man. Wow.
Dang, it's our centennial.
And it only took 2.5 years to get there.
Wow.
Not
That
bad. Yeah.
that's yeah, that's not bad considering, we've had
How many weeks are in a
almost
year? 50, 50,
52.
52. All right. See, that's not bad. You
Dang,
know?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
in 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess that means we took off. I don't know the math.
Uh-oh.
Well, I guess half would be 25. So around 25-ish weeks. That's not
Mhm.
bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Last
Yeah.
year I felt like we took off a lot because of everything. Last year was almost primarily Lost season 3.
Yeah.
And then just a little bit of Arcane at the end. I think half of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, man,
Yeah, it was
I'm
crazy.
I'm curious how far we're gonna get in Lost this year because the longest 14 episodes and then like 16 and 16, I think.
Oh, this is only 14.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
I dude, like this time next year, do you think we're gonna be done?
Oh man.
I think we might.
We might be.
I don't think we'll finish this year.
No,
but
no.
I think we'll get to the last season this year for sure.
Yeah,
And then we'll
yeah,
have to take a little
probably.
break for Christmas or something.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how that lines up.
Oh
Wow.
man, that's crazy. What are we gonna do
I don't
afterwards?
know. The future of Lost Legacy is bright and mysterious at the same time. So, or maybe not, because I'm pretty sure I want to bring Dark to the podcast at some
Oh,
point.
oh gosh. Season
Yes.
125.
I know. And what's nice about Dark is that like it's a total of 26 episodes, you
Mm,
know? So that ain't bad.
that's not bad.
Yeah. So I guess let's get into it, man. Today we're talking about Lost, season 4, episode 5, The Constant.
Mm-hmm.
When the
Mm-hmm.
helicopter hits turbulence on its way to the freighter, Desmond experiences unexpected side effects. As his consciousness travels in time, he and Faraday find their constants. Dude, this is what television was made for.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, you could have, like, sure, you probably could have told this story in like a 2 3 hour movie, but like, we have been with Desmond for like 2.5 years at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like it. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, those emotional punches punch. Oh, such a good episode. The best one of the season so far, easily one of the best episodes of the series.
Yeah, for sure. Which that the Desmond episode, of course it is.
Right? Dude, like every time. Oh, and it starts off with no previously on. We're immediately on Desmond, and I'm like, oh man, we're
Yeah.
in for a ride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah,
this
man.
episode, the episode where we meet the Fantastic Four,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like all 5 episodes so far, they're so good and they're all back to back. Like now I'm remembering why I love this season so much.
Yeah.
You know, and unfortunately, a lot of people had already jumped ship at this point. They're like, "Oh, flash forwards. Oh, that's just too weird." You know, and I'm like, "Bro, this is like just solid badass science fiction, and I am
Yeah.
here for it."
That's yeah. And see, like that's kind of the thing. Like I am very forgiving with a lot of like science fiction stuff,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's like if you have an idea and you execute it well, usually I'll just enjoy it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um and that's kind of what this show is. Like I think a lot of people got caught up on like the details, like the whys
Mm-hmm.
and the whats, like, what was the statue, what all these other things, and it's like that's just plot. Like
Right.
you're just concerned about plot. You're not concerned about story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're telling a story. That's the more important thing. The island is really just like a focal for all of these stories to flourish, and
Yeah.
and and come out of, and yeah, like that, like yeah, you're absolutely right, because I was thinking that too. Like this would be an interesting, like 2-hour movie or something,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like it only works because we've spent so much time with Desmond, and we know his story up to this point, and we can see like how we already know that he's got like this time travel thing that he does. So it's
Yeah.
like this is a really interesting, like, you know sidetrack, for him to go off on, and do this whole thing. And it sucks because, like, they pretty much set up early on that, like, he could die.
Yeah.
Like this is a thing that has happened to other people,
Mm-hmm.
and they died. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, like immediately we're so worried about what could happen to him. Um and yeah, man, and especially like right at the end, when we get our through line, when we get our conclusion, it's like that only works because of Desmond's first flashback,
Mm-hmm.
because we've seen and heard, all these things, because of the end of season 2 where we see Penny trying to find the thing, it's like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the only reason why this works. Like this is playing the long game with Desmond's story, and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
I was bawling, dude. I was crying when it
Dude,
happened.
that climactic scene was just so emotional,
Yeah,
and the acting on both actors' parts, especially considering that like they're on the phone. So
yeah.
like they're essentially acting alone each scene, you know? Uh it's just it's incredible. Like I'm curious about that too. I wonder if, they were actually on the phone with each other or if they're
Hmm.
just kind of monologuing it. But yeah, man, one of my all-time favorite couples,
Yep.
Penny and Desmond. They're up
Hmm.
there with Rosalind and Adama,
Oh
uh,
man, yeah.
Buffy and Angel. Well, I consider Spike too because I do like Buffy and Spike's. Well, most of the relationship. I like the dynamic. I like the triangle.
Yeah.
But who else would we put up there? Sun and Jin, maybe. I mean,
Oh, for
I
sure.
love
For
them. Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, Lost gets two couples in the top 10.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
We should have talked about this on Valentine's Day.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Guys,
Um,
welcome to our preemptive or post-emptive
that's
Valentine's
what happened the
episode.
first time. We did our Valentine's episode like a month late.
Uh-huh.
All right, man. Crazy stuff happens. They hit a storm.
Mm-hmm.
Things go nuts, and then all of a sudden they get out of the storm. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that was quick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a quick line too. It's kind of throwaway if you're not paying attention. But when Saeed and Frank are kind of arguing on the deck of the freighter, he's like, "I want some answers. Tell me about Desmond. Blah blah blah. How come we can take off at dusk and land in the middle of the day?"
Mm-hmm.
And like Frank just looks at him and he's like, "I don't know what's going on with your friend." Okay, blah blah blah. Like, oh man, there's some funky stuff happening. Time
Uh-huh.
shenanigans.
Uh-huh.
So they it was like a 20-25 minute helicopter trip for them. But on
Mm-hmm.
the island, it was like
It was like a whole day.
over for sure.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
when it was at night, they were saying they left yesterday. And then they don't actually make contact until the following day because it's daylight when he's on the phone with Saeed.
oh. Did
Which
he,
is
did he say that they left yesterday? Oh, they did. Yeah, yeah.
Jack
Because
mentions they left a day ago.
yeah, that's right.
So, but what's really interesting about this, and like I'm still not really crystal clear on, is when they called the ship last week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, they're not here. There's no one here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, well, like they're communicating in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. You can communicate in real time, but you can't physically get there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at some point, the helicopter vanished for like a day and a half, maybe 2 days. I don't know what the timeline is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just appeared on the other side of the storm.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I wonder how Faraday's experiment plays into it. You know, and like 2 episodes ago, he launched some sort of payload
Yeah.
from
And
the
that
boat.
was like a 2 hour time difference.
Yeah, yeah, which is a big difference, considering like one, I guess the rocket is faster.
Yeah.
You
True,
know,
because it was supposed to arrive in like 30 seconds or something, but it
yeah,
ended up
something like
taking like
that.
2 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
So I don't
wonder,
know.
do you go through the storm no matter what? Because that's what caused Naomi to kind of crash land.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what caused the helicopter to go down.
Mm-hmm. It
So maybe it's
might.
just like this invisible storm that shows up. Oh my God, it's Fortnite. The island is Fortnite. It's the Fortnite island. Wow, don't get caught in a storm.
Yeah,
The storm is the smoke monster.
that just that explains so many things.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I hate to call him my boy, but
Uh-oh.
Kevin Durand shows up.
I know.
I think listeners, I think James Kirk is an underrated character in film, and I think Kevin Durand is a seriously underrated actor.
Mm.
No correlation, but
Just the underrated
and I'm
part.
saying Kevin Durand, not Kevin Durant, the basketball player. Although I don't know, what would
Could be an
Kevin Durant
underrated
do on the
basketball.
island?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put him in the show. Put him in
yeah,
Fortnite.
yeah. Yeah, Kevin Durant, man, as Kimi.
Mm-hmm. He's so small. He looks so young.
Right? Right?
You
Like I
know?
remember when I first watched the show, I'm like, man, this guy's big. And now like he's definitely bulked up over the decades.
Yeah.
But now watching him I was like, wow, he's small compared to like where he eventually is now. It's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Cause I remember like yeah like saw a couple of movies where he was in, but I really the show that I watched with him was The Strain.
Mm-hmm.
Because he plays like a city health inspector
Mm-hmm.
or something. Turns like gladiator, in like
Yeah.
this vampire apocalypse. And he's like yeah he's like huge in that.
Wow. I never saw that show. He was in what was that show? Woo Assassins. That's what it was called, right? The guy from the raid, Aiko.
Oh yeah yeah yeah.
Woo Assassins, which is such a weird show. It was like a mix of like I don't even know. It was like three different shows combined into one. Iko plays this guy who all he wants to do is he's Indonesian and he's living in San Francisco. All he wants to do is be a chef. So one of the highlights of the show is like there's a lot of cooking. There's a lot of cooking, so much food. He just wants to be a chef.
Nice.
But he has some kind of like ancient power in his bloodline that makes him the Wu assassin, which means he could fight badass and he has to, he's prophesized to save the world, yada yada. But he could also change between him and then I don't remember the other actor, Mark Dacascos, something like that. He's a
Oh yeah
major
yeah.
martial artist. They like switch faces, which is something they completely like stopped doing like by the end of the show, and it was nowhere in the movie. Like there's no point to it.
What the heck?
Yeah, but then also there was it almost seemed like Power Rangers, like there were several and people want their power. It was nuts.
That's
Anyway,
wild.
Kevin Durand shows up for an episode where he plays this guy who has like he's like has tree powers, nature powers. It's like
Okay.
slow. It kind of reminds me of like an old like dryad type guy
Yeah yeah.
who's living in the cabin. He's killing hot young teenagers. It's like that kind of story. And then you find out who this guy is. You're like, oh, this is like old magic.
Ooh,
Like
interesting.
this is really cool. And the episode was directed by Catherine Winnick, popular
Ooh.
for playing Lagatha in
Yeah
Vikings,
yeah
who
yeah.
she also had a role in the show, but not the movie for some reason.
Huh,
Um,
weird.
yeah, and then they also deal with a lot of racism because you have these Asian guys road tripping through like Washington State. Like it was such a great episode. It's such a standout from the whole series. I reckon give it a shot. Wu Assassins is not for everyone. It is fun though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, Kevin Durant did an amazing job in that, and yeah, I want to see him in more stuff. He was in Vikings as well.
Oh, cool.
I forgot who he played. He was an ancient figure.
But we're not talking about those shows. We're talking about Lost.
Oh yeah.
Season 4, episode 5, The
Oh God.
Constant.
So I just jumped into Wu Assassins for a second.
You
Where am I? What show
gotta
is this?
find your constant, Matt.
Oh no. My
Find your
constant is
constant.
Kevin Durand because he's in both. Okay, so the concept of the constant is so cool because in this episode, Desmond is traveling back in time subconsciously,
Hmm.
which is so cool. Such a cool concept. I like it.
Yeah.
He goes back to the military. That's where he is in the past in 1996,
Hmm.
which 8 years later is 2004. I'm like, man, this show's old. um,
Right? Oh
cause
man.
yeah, but so Faraday's on the phone with him. He says, "You have to go back to Oxford or wherever and
Mm-hmm.
find me." So he does. So he finds Faraday 8 years previous. And what's also interesting is that Faraday doesn't remember meeting Desmond.
Yeah.
That's several things he doesn't remember now. So I'm like, okay, Dan, what's going on with your memory?
Yeah.
I wonder if this is because of it. Maybe it's because he's using a lot of that radiation for
Yeah.
his experiment. And Desmond even says, because he puts on the vest, Desmond even says, "Well, what do you put on your head?" He just like ignores him. He's like, "Huh,
Yeah.
wow." Yeah. So essentially, he discovers time travel,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, because
Kind of.
Desmond gives him the numbers to use on the device,
Mm-hmm.
but Desmond was giving the numbers from older Faraday.
Yeah.
Thus, for we have the bootstrap paradox.
What's the bootstrap paradox?
There's no beginning. So
Oh.
Daniel only figured out time travel because he was given the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers were sent by Daniel in the future. So where does
Mm-hmm.
the actual origin come from?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's confusing. Doctor Who says it best though, whereas Peter Capaldi and he describes it as you have a time traveler who's a big fan of Beethoven. So he gets all his sheet music and he goes back in time because he wants Beethoven to sign them. When he gets to the past, he realizes that nobody knows who Beethoven is. Can't find family, relatives, anyone. And time is going on and he's realizing, oh my God, there's no Beethoven. He doesn't want to be a part of a world that doesn't have Beethoven. So he says, well, I have the sheet music. Maybe I'll just play it. So the
Mm.
time traveler becomes Beethoven.
Hmm. Okay.
The real question is who wrote the music?
Huh. Okay. Okay.
That's bootstrap paradox.
Interesting. Okay.
Who actually accomplishes Daniel's project?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Ooh, that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
make my brain hurt later.
Dude, I love it because there's something just creepy about it. Like it's not scary, but like that's not right.
Yeah.
Something about that's unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love it. Bootstrap paradox. Um, yeah. So we met Mikowski for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was the what? The communications officer.
Yeah. The communications officer.
Not for long.
Yeah. But he gave some pretty interesting information. One, he did talk about the person on the ship who sabotaged all the communications equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and
Someone text. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just gonna go ahead and presume that it's the same person who unlocked their door.
Yeah, someone lets them out.
And I'm gonna even take it a step further and say that's Ben's inside man.
That's what I was thinking too, because Ben has an inside man on the ship that we still don't know of yet.
Yeah, yeah,
Or maybe we do. Maybe we met him this episode, but we don't know because we met several new faces this episode.
yeah,
We haven't met the captain yet
yeah,
because they deliberately asked to talk with him and he never shows up.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's interesting.
Now, what was Mikowski talking about when he said he and another crew member, like Kyle or
I
something,
think he said like the skiff or something. He took the skiff, which I think is like a
like a
small
small
boat,
boat?
right?
Yeah.
So he said that they were just bored and they wanted just to see the island, so they took it.
Uh-huh.
And then they went back or whatever. So I
And
don't
they
know if they hit the storm or what, but they said Kyle or whoever went crazy first, right?
yeah,
Now he's in a body bag. And
yeah.
Mikowski's jumping back and forth as well.
Hmm.
Dang.
So it's like there's some sort of thing I feel like of course, like if the smoke monster is like the security measure
Yeah.
on the island, there has to be some sort of security measure surrounding it. Maybe it's the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's got to be something.
I see. I don't know if it's so much the security. I was just thinking it's, well, like Daniel says, it's a side effect.
Oh yeah,
See,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting that it happens to Mikowski and Kyle because Faraday, he kind of called it with Desmond. He's like, "Has your friend been subjected to massive amounts of radiation recently?" Which he
Yeah,
had, and even
yeah.
Jack didn't realize it. He's like, "No, I don't think so." He's like, "Well, he blew up the hatch, and
Yeah,
that was part of it." Um, so that's interesting, especially because Frank was okay, Saeed was okay.
yeah,
So yeah, I don't know, man. That's the island has to maybe like it could be like a security thing.
yeah. I don't know.
I think there's also the possibility that it's just something other. It's something that humans weren't made to do, you know?
Yeah,
The editing of this episode was wild.
yeah.
Like it starts off normal, but then like as Desmond starts jumping back and forth, so does the editing, and it's very jarring. Like it
Mm-hmm.
cuts to the past, like mid sentence,
Mm-hmm.
and like even the score is going, and then it just cuts to
Gone.
silence. You're like, oh wow, wow.
Yeah.
And I think they did it very well. It was very effective. But we saw some familiar faces this episode, including one Charles Widmore.
Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch.
Son of a who I was freaking the F out is uh at an auction
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the journal of the first mate of the Black Rock. And they
Mm-hmm.
have a painting of the Black Rock. And they said that mysteriously disappeared at sea. It's such and such. This is the journal of the first mate who nobody outside of the family of the people that owned it had ever seen or looked at before. And the person who was donating it was what's his name? Hanzo.
Yeah, it was a Hanzo.
It's all it's all a circle, man. It's all
Yeah.
everything comes around, and I'm just like, how does Widmore fit into this? Why is he bidding on this thing?
Dude,
You
I
know,
know.
like it's got to be. You can't tell me that Charles Widmore is not somehow involved in any of this.
Right?
You
Yeah.
know, ugh. What if what if Charles Widmore is the one who sent the freighter?
That's a possibility.
Because why else would they have Penny and Desmond's picture?
Oh, yeah, we still don't know that.
We still don't know that.
Naomi had the picture. Mikowski was saying that they keep receiving a message trying to get to the island from
Mhm.
Penelope Widmore, and they're instructed never to answer it.
Yeah.
So he knows about it.
Yeah.
So who the hell was Naomi?
I don't know. Because she's employed by Michael Abaddon, who put together the Fantastic Four in the first place.
Yes, but he never mentioned Penny
No, he never did.
or Desmond. As far as we know,
Yeah.
all we saw was that he was telling her to get the four onto the island and get them off safely, and
Yeah.
there were no survivors of Flight
Yeah.
815. This episode is great because there are so little of like there's a handful. There's like five of our main characters in this episode.
Uh-huh.
But I think I was even reading that like Jack and Saeed are the only characters from season one in this episode. I was like, oh wow, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
It's true.
Everyone else showed up at different times, and I'm like, it's just kind of cool because it's like it's slowly building that world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. And it felt good to actually see the freighter and to get on it. Like, okay, we made it. There's
Uh-huh.
no pulling of the rug. We have made it. We're here. It feels like a step forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Exactly.
new location,
New characters,
new
new
characters.
situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a D&D game.
right?
You know?
You're slowly building out the world, and like you're leveling up. Like,
Uh-huh.
okay, we leveled up. We're in a new place now.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Ah,
They're on the helicopter and it's like, all right, everybody, roll your constitution checks.
yeah,
You
no,
know, and Desmond got a 1. And the
yeah.
DM's like, good.
Or did he roll a nat
Exactly.
20?
Exactly what I wanted. Oh yeah, that's
We
true.
don't know. Yeah.
True.
Well, I guess nothing good really would have come with it. It was nice that he finally got to reconnect with Penny after
Yeah.
8 years. She gives him her phone number after he left her at the altar, and he says, "I know it doesn't make sense, Pen, but you just need to give me your number, and I will call you in 8 years." And she even says, "Well, what's stopping you from calling me tomorrow night, or in a week from now?" He's like, "I won't call you for 8 years."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "I'll call
Mm-hmm.
you on Christmas Eve, 2004." It's like, oh, dude. And she kept the freaking number.
She kept the
She
number.
kept the number,
She
dude.
kept the number.
Oh,
Man, like, oh, what a show.
oh, geez, man.
Man, it's such a great moment.
Yeah, and the music's going, the violins, and like,
Hmm. They're both crying and they're
uh-huh.
trying to,
She's like, "I've
just
been
like
looking for you, Des, for three
for
years.
3 years.
I thought it
And
was
he
crazy, but I talked to your friend Charlie." I'm like,
mhm.
oh, oh man.
And see, okay, oh, okay, and yeah, that's this was the crux of the episode, and this was what I mean when I say I don't give a crap about plot. I care about
Right.
story
Right. And this is
because
what Lost has done so well.
hmm
They're progressing everything. They're progressing the story through the characters, you
hmm
know?
hmm yeah, because like they set it up, early on that like that's the reason why the rat, going through the maze has time displacement and then like dies of a brain aneurysm
Yeah,
because
yeah.
like they can't tell where they are, like
Hmm.
what's the future, what's the past. That's why Mikowski dies
Yeah.
because Mikowski is trapped, and he keeps jumping back and forth, but like there's nothing to hold him there. And that was what was important, is that there is something in both the past and the present that you can link to. That is the constant.
Right.
And so Desmond slowly comes to realize that. And then that, like, we get the phone call and it's like, yeah, no, like I don't care. I don't care if your 2-hour movie is able to pull off something like that. Like that's not what that's not what it's it's just the fact that we've been with these characters and like we've
Yeah.
seen them struggle. We've thought Desmond was dead, all of these things. We've seen all of these things. And we know Desmond's not a coward.
Hmm.
And we're starting to see that like this is something that has been happening for a while,
Hmm.
even before it got on the island, that this is a whole other thing. And and then we just get this reunion that's like they don't talk anything about, like, oh Penn, I'm here, let me give you the coordinates, right now,
Yeah.
I'll write
Yeah.
it down, Des, I'll find you, blah blah.
What's
No.
the polar bears doing on this island?
Yeah, what
You
are the
know?
polar bears,
I don't care.
she
I don't
doesn't.
care.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
I
love to know the answer to that. I really
exactly.
would. But that's not my love for this show is not writing on those answers,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. It's about that moment when Desmond finally hears Penny's voice, the thing he's been
Yeah.
wanting to hear
Yeah.
since he got on the island, all
Dude,
of this stuff.
it's
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 incredible.
all about character,
Hmm.
and sure, maybe a lot of those flashbacks or those character moments weren't the best, but it's all about character. That's what the story is tied to. It's not the smoke monster or the polar bear or the numbers, all
Yeah.
stuff I would love to know more about, but it's about the characters. Penny reconnecting with Desmond on the phone, Jack and Kate finally admitting that they love each other. but
Mm-hmm.
they still can't go forward because he can't bear the fact that something happens to Claire, so he doesn't even want to see Aaron. You
Yeah.
know, it's those little moments that are progressing the plot, but it's all based on the story. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
jeez,
It's beautiful.
man. Yeah, it is.
Love this show.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Uh-huh.
Oh man,
There's your Christmas episode right here.
you're right. This is kind of like as close as we get to a Christmas episode. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of obvious. MVP.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, Henry Ian Cusack for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked seeing Daniel a little younger, more kind of more put together. Like he doesn't seem as scatterbrained as he is now. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. More
Um,
put together, a little
I
bit more like arrogant.
yeah,
He's got
you
the
know,
long hair. He's like
I ducked
dissing
the
a
hair.
student,
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's in like the Harvard base or the Oxford basement, where
Yeah.
they're doing things that, they don't want him to do, all that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
So Desmond gives him the numbers. When he doesn't remember, he says, "I know about Eloise."
Mm-hmm.
Eloise is the little rat, right? Is a rat.
Yeah, the rat.
Yeah. I was like, oh man. Yeah, it was good. So now this is interesting because the episode ends with Daniel going through his journal, which is interesting because if he doesn't have memories of Desmond, there's probably things in his journal that he doesn't remember writing.
Yeah.
Like that. So he's going through and he sees a note in big letters, Desmond Hume will be my constant.
Yeah.
If Daniel's going to be jumping through time, when is he jumping?
Yeah.
Is it still 1996? You know, like
I don't know. Maybe. When we get to Desmond's episode, he's getting out of prison, right?
yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
military prison though, right?
Yeah. I
So
think
I don't
so.
know.
So I wonder, because I was curious about this during like this whole time. Like, I know that he's got like the weekend, essentially,
Mhm.
the weekend shore leave. I'm curious, like, if it's something that has to do with this time displacement stuff that gets him, like what if they just like, what if he goes AWOL, or they think he's gone AWOL, you know?
Yeah,
Because I think that would render him, into like a prison sentence.
hmm. So he gets out of jail, and then Widmore picks him up from prison.
Yeah,
Right? He says, "I'm going to give you all this money to stay away from my daughter."
yeah,
So basically, after this episode, he still goes back to military. Something happens. He gets thrown in jail. He finally gets out.
uh-huh.
He's trying to reach Penny the whole time. Because also he's writing to her, right? Isn't that a thing?
He had been writing in prison,
Yeah.
but Widmore gives him the letters.
Yeah. Okay. So he's still writing. So after this, they still have another meetup, and it's in that car. He offers him the money. He doesn't take it.
Uh-huh.
But that's when Desmond starts thinking about, oh, I'm going to win that boat race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Predictions.
I've been giving my predictions this whole episode. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
It's nuts, man, because we only have 9 episodes left.
Oh, geez.
Technically, maybe 8, because I'm pretty sure the last one is a 2-parter.
Oh, probably, yeah.
It's going so fast. Luckily, we're going to take a break from Lost next week. We will be talking about our 100th episode.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, guys, so we'll be celebrating our 100th episode next week. Probably going to bring Dad along.
Okay.
We're going to play
All right.
some little games. We're going to have some fun. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. We'll have a grand old time.
Yeah. So that's next week. The week after that, we will be jumping back into Lost, talking about season 4, episode 6, The Other Woman, in which Faraday and Charlotte set out to fulfill their objective.
Ooh.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
I
don't know.
Guys, as always, you can find us online, #LostLegacies. If you've enjoyed these 99 episodes like we have, send us some love, #LostLegacies. If you say something nice, we'll read it on the pod. So, if you want to hit us up personally, though, I'm on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And I am on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
That's right. So until next time, get lost.
Get lost.